Chris, I'd like to, I guess I'll start off by saying that tonight, John Dedikamp is one of our new select board members. He's here. It's now the land use and planning liaison. So, John, and then Daniel beside him, one of the other selectmen, but that's all.
All right. Did everyone get the chance to look at June 6 minutes?
I did. I make a motion to accept the minutes for June 6, 2024 as submitted.
Yeah, I'm going to designate Andrew for an alternate.
Oh.
Sorry. Okay.
You were present for that meeting too, so you can vote.
Yes,
Right.
I was.
So you can second.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I second the motion.
All in favor? All opposed? All right. So tonight we're going to start off to have our annual board meeting because July 4th is a holiday and that's our first July meeting, and due to the 18th kind of being booked out, we're just going to do it now out of kind of convenience or easiness. So we can either re-elect the same people or elect new people, or what do you guys want?
Do you want my opinion? I like to keep the same people.
Well, you still have to make a motion that that individual stays at that position, second the motion, and vote on it.
Okay, so we have to go through more.
Yeah, you go at there's 3 offices you have. Right now, you currently have Chris Whitman at the chair, Gavin Maloney at the vice chair, and then Dawn as secretary.
What?
I thought you were the secretary. Wait a minute, then who is? I thought you were...
No, we never.
What do you mean? I thought you were always the secretary. Oh, okay. My mistake. I always thought you were.
So you get railed for 3 years and now you're a secretary already.
No, I thought... So who, because I thought you were, and then...
No, it's only if you're not here.
No, somebody else, one of the guys who left had it, and I don't know.
I didn't know that. I would have had to re-elect
No, it
it.
was the guy,
The only ones.
Was one.
it was, but then it was another guy that lived on Moon Pond, Republican.
Oh, Bennett.
Yeah.
Oh, so I didn't know that. I thought you were, because we would have had to re-elected in secretary.
So
when you
basically
left.
saying you look like Bevan.
I'm sorry, guys. So we have an open spot, a seat then.
Does Gavin have to be president to get elected?
He would have to be president if he didn't want it, but he said he'd stay the same when I spoke to him before.
Okay. So we can elect him and that's okay?
Yeah. I don't know. I honestly don't have an answer to that one, but I don't see it. He wouldn't deny it. He wouldn't say no.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
If he's not here, he can't say no, so it's a bonus.
Alright. Make a motion to make Chris Whitman chair of the planning board again.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All in favor? All opposed?
Make another motion to make Gavin vice chair for the second term.
I'll second that.
All in favor? All opposed?
And then I'll make a motion to make Adam secretary, unless you don't want it.
I'll second that.
So the secretary, so pretty much if the vice,
Let's get that sold.
you guys don't do anything else, but other than, I mean, my office really takes care of the secretary stuff, does all the paperwork. If Chris isn't here for some reason, Gavin are both not here, then you would run the meeting.
Okay.
So
Or
you
if
really...
he's not here, he takes.
Right, well, I still take the notes. It's more or less just an order. I honestly thought John was the secretary, so that's why, okay. But anyway, he doesn't want it. So,
Can we get a second on that? Yeah.
I did second.
All in favor? All opposed? All right.
and we have all our officers.
Okay, so that's done.
Nailed it.
So we're going to start with if there's any people in the audience regarding for public comment or anything like that.
There's only changes.
What?
Zoning changes.
When's that for?
Yeah, it is.
Right, we're just gonna...
Yeah, so is what you Yeah, anybody, so what we're doing tonight is we're talking about zoning amendment changes and stuff like that. Is there any, and we know you guys are here, so instead of keeping you here for the long haul, you guys are more than welcome to say anything about any kind of zoning amendment changes or possible changes or zoning, whatever.
Suggestions, yeah.
Suggestions, correct.
Yeah.
Just gonna be one speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't bring up the
Yeah, so-
individual operations.
So just state your name and stuff like that for the record,
My name is
please.
Jean Burkhoff, I'm at 10 Clifton Dale. I have copies of this for everybody, perfect if you want. But anyway, first, I just want to thank you guys for all the work you've done on this. You know, it's here back at the moratorium days and the new amendments, and I'm very happy that you guys are working hard for the good of the town. As you continue to work to develop these ordinances, and as we all learn from experience, we'd like to consider some of the following points. In general, the conditional use permits could benefit from very clear language stating what operations are approved and which are prohibited. Specifically, we wonder whether if an activity is not explicitly approved in the conditional use permit, then the applicant must return back to the planning board to either alter that permit or apply for a new one. Section 5.9.e.4, which regards to existing operations, is sort of where I'm going to focus my thoughts on this. If an existing pit has not been active in the prior 3 years, then it should not be considered active, and the operator should be required to apply for a new conditional use permit under the current ordinances. This would prevent the problems with these zombie pits. It should be made clear in the ordinance that the conditions in grandfathered permits must be strictly adhered to, and we make it clear in the ordinance. And if an activity is not specifically addressed in the conditions of that original permit, the operator would need to file a new conditional use application with the planning board. And the thinking is that some of these grandfathered conditional use permits are 35 years old, and were written based on equipment capabilities at that time. There's been substantial improvements in technology and equipment, and we have a better understanding now of health and environmental impacts of extraction operations. At the time the original conditions were set, the permitting agents could not have foreseen the possible and in some cases detrimental consequences of developments 35 years later. Understanding that these conditions set in these old permits can't be changed, we wish that the ordinance should make it clear that these conditions in these permits are enforced to the letter, and it would be love to see that right in the ordinance. These old pits are can be located in neighborhoods, and in such cases, there needs to be consideration for those that live near these operations. Current ordinance, dust mitigation specifications, stormwater drainage, buffer requirements, and noise mitigation should be applied to these grandfathered pits as well as they are applied to new pits. Rights of way and private roads running through these pits should not be altered without written permission from the residents who use these roads to access their properties. Any plan should be clearly documented and approved by the property owners, the planning board, and whoever else might have an interest in this. And specifically, in addition to that, I have a specific thing, section 5.9.c.7 states that the pits need to have approval from the fire department, that the fire department and emergency vehicles could get into the pit. And I think that should be expanded to include all properties which are accessed through the pit. We need those fire engines too. Existing operations that are 5 or more acres should be required to provide documentation that they are in compliance with the state DEP ordinances. These are, again, these grandfathered pits, just as the new pits are, the new pits that are permitted, that you have permitted, and as specified in 5.9.2.c.9. So we just request that the same apply to these grandfathered pits, that they provide documentation from the state that they have met all the requirements. And lastly, on these grandfathered pits, to also specify that bonds and insurance should be adjusted for inflation. The bonds were written 35 years ago. They wouldn't go far now. And the second sort of meat of this whole thing regards blasting. I know that, I think Jason told me a while ago, you guys are starting to think about that and looking into some of that. But our thoughts would be that blasting must be in compliance with the state ordinances. and that, importantly, blasting should be prohibited in an aquifer protection zone. Regular water quality testing should be required with the results made available to the public, and that the operator should be required to offer structural inspections and water quality testing to property owners within 1,000 feet of the area blasted, and that these inspections must be offered during a time of year when the properties are accessible and access to well water is possible, with the results made available to property owners. And I have signatures of, probably a dozen of our compatriots. So, thank you.
You said you have copies?
Yeah.
Got copies. Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know if I have enough copies.
That's okay. I'll make copies.
Okay, great, thank you.
Because I have a couple members here that are present. And,
Okay.
I think they're gonna want to see this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean. Yeah, no, this. Any more comment?
No, any comments?
No. From the public.
What?
From the public.
From the public, no? No? All right. Next, did everybody get a chance to look at the audit from North Star? Dabble into that? Nope.
Just trying to get an idea if we're, I know we don't have a full board, we're missing a couple people. Pretty much trying to get an idea of where the board is looking to go with that audit, how much they want to tackle. Right now I have North Star reviewing the subdivision regulations to see how compliant we are with all the new LD rules and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to get that back here in a timely manner. I told them to kind of really just do like a quick oversee and let me know if it was something that had to be really dissected into, a lot of it had to be looked into, or if it was something that we're in compliant and we can just merge it and then go from there. But and like Jamel said last week, there's a lot to their proposal, and it's more of a 2-year process. So I guess we're trying to look to see what the board wants to work on, and is there any changes that people would like to see, and research that they'd like to do to change anything in the ordinance. What they just, these residents just did was, they gave me a couple ideas that I'd like to share. In the good neighbor policy, we don't have anything about dust pollution or anything like that. Right now, the dust pollution only is in the mineral extraction thing, and it would be nice to have something like that in the good neighbor policy, because that particular pollution, a lot of it came with dust pollution. And so the state supposedly came down and used their monitors, and it was fine. And then I went out to the property, the vehicles were just covered in dust. So it would be something that I wouldn't mind seeing something in there about dust pollution. And that doesn't have to go back in their conditions. It's just saying that, any operation needs to, adhere to, the best measures possible to minimize dust pollution of some sort,
That dust pollution, was that from road traffic, or was that from?
It was from everything. It came from processing, it came from crushing, and it came from road traffic. The conditions said that they were supposed to put calcium on the road. I don't know if he has yet or not. It's also been a dry spell, and a lot of rain. So yeah, it came from everything. It was just the trifecta effect.
Is there, Jason, is there an example, like out in other counties or towns?
Well, I'll definitely look. She just gave me an idea, so that was just, I'm just bringing it up. I always look into neighboring towns.
Yeah.
So when we did the mineral extraction ordinance, I went through other towns that deal with mineral extraction, and looked at their ordinance, and then brought it to the board, and then they kind of married multiple ordinances together and made their own. I will definitely be looking into stuff like that. We have essentially, 6 months to get something prepared, because maybe even, you know, more. We'll want to have it done by January, because then it goes, we have that process where it goes to legal, it'll go to like North Star, it'll go to legal, and then it'll go in front of the select board, Warren Finance, and everybody has to put their hands into it and either approve it or not approve it, or set, what's the word I'm looking for? Recommend it, thank you. And then it goes to town vote, which last year town vote was in April, and I think they're gonna do it again because there was a really good turnout at that time. So it makes sense. So essentially we have 6 months, I would say, in that ballpark, which gives us a good amount of time to do a lot of things. And so yeah, it was kind of just ideas from what North Star had said in their audit. And I'm waiting, like I said, I'm waiting for the subdivision thing to come back too as well. Because that was a suggestion that they had that shouldn't take a lot of work. We just got to find out where to put it in the ordinance.
Yeah.
With their help. So.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was going through it, I mean, in the next 6 months, I think a lot of their streamlined suggestions with respect to combining the documents and to just to make it more usable for not just for us but for anyone who wants to look at it. I think that's definitely achievable here in the next 6 months to make a well-organized document. I think that could be a pretty decent objective. The one thought I had with respect to differences between shoreland and everywhere else, basically, is there's a tons of variations with respect to what's allowed and what's not in different areas and everything. So we would just have to pay, instead of, and I think there's 2 ways to basically go about that, either given the shoreland, or I think you have to basically give the shoreland, continue to give the shoreland like its own
Section.
its own art, basically its own article as they're referring to it here. Give it its own article, and then literally you'd have to go through the document, and every single place that has a dual reference, that references an item that is also referenced in a shoreland, has to have that reference. Like if you live in a shoreland, C section, whatever, because there's a difference. So it's those details that would have to be, but in my mind, I think that might be an achievable way of going about it, and an easier way to, to organize all these documents. Those are my thoughts on it. Just on what we have. In terms of big changes and those types of things, probably 2 or 3, and I think some discussion was brought up last time about waiting for a town plan from
Comprehensive.
So that's a multi-year.
Totally.
You know, so that has to be brought. So that starts with the select board, and they start a committee and all that. That's something the planning board doesn't really tackle, but they, have a discussion about it. And
no, what I mean is I'm hesitant to make any drastic changes to our own document if we're not, if in 2 years it's not in compliance with the town plan.
No, now I see what you're saying.
That's what I mean.
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, so I'd like to see, I know it's a multi-year process, but if we could, as a board, really push to be like, I know it's a multi-year process, but it has to start at some point.
Yeah.
So can we start this?
Because
We've asked the 4 years that I've been on the board.
Can we start this? Because, we're going to continue to get residents who have complaints about one thing or another, and we can play whack-a-mole with it by changing this ordinance or that ordinance or whatever like that. But it's gonna get real. I see it getting real messy, real quick over the next couple of years if we just keep playing that and kind of exercising it in that way as a volunteer board versus that.
I will be at the June 26th Selectmen's meeting to talk about the audit and what the planning board would like to do or possibly do. I will put that in the bug in their ear and talk to them about it, and I just let them know that the board, keep on making decisions for the town of Acton. Would like to see something to Because right now you are just making decisions, not, I guess, not that, you know.
We have to base it on this 20-year-old document.
Right.
You know, we can't make up ideas, you know, out of the blue of what we think the direction of the town is. We have to go off of what we
What is the
have.
town?
What did they say before? And in lieu of a new document, we have to go off that. Obviously, things change decade to decade, so we need something updated. So, yeah, any kind of support you need, obviously, like, happy to participate.
So Jason, is the intent to have North Star or the York County guys help us with the reorg effort?
I can definitely facilitate that, yeah.
'Cause-
Because that's a lot of work that I don't want to put on my office nor the board on, because you guys are a volunteer committee, and put that much pressure on you guys to do that. And with some of the projects that we have coming, I don't know if I don't know how long those projects are going to take. If all the applications actually come in front of our table, I see us having some busy meetings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely facilitate that. I will talk to the select board about that, because that's, you know, it all comes, I have the funding, it all comes down to getting just approval for it. I don't see that being an issue. Yeah, no, I would not put that on you guys. So I would have them come up with suggestions, and then you would review it, like, you know, like normal, because it's not them making the changes, it's still you, it's still the planning board making the changes. They're just giving you a,
Well,
so
yes, you know.
they're gonna make the changes, and then you can either say, yeah, I like these, or I'd like to.
Yeah, it's administrative in nature, and
Yeah.
it's a big administrative effort to consolidate the shoreline and zone thing, which I think would be a good thing to do.
Sure.
But for us to do that, you know, where they can go through and cut and paste, and, you know, they're the pros from Dover at doing that.
Yep.
So that sort of reorg, streamlining, I think, is a good thing to do, using the existing language.
So I guess even after tonight, I think it's a good idea to start brainstorming. If there's any kind of ordinance changes or amendments that somebody would like to add, and then can come to the table, because we didn't talk about it too much last time, but I think right now is the time, and we can talk about it at the end of the 18th meeting. You know, what would you like to see updated or changed, added, anything like that? You know, other than just reorganizing and restructuring the ordinance. I know that's going to be, if we're going to reorganize it and restructure it, there's going to be a lot to it, and I don't know how crazy we want to go with adding stuff to the ordinance or anything like that, because once you give too much, there's always pushback that there was too much change. And I hate when that happens, because it's just, I like to see things kind of move along in a good manner, but when somebody says that, oh, there's too many changes, then you always get that. Yeah, we'll leave it there.
What was just part, did they come in on their own accord? Or
They asked to come in. They asked to come in on, they asked to come in for this meeting. They wanted to have some comments about, because they're dealing with an operation.
Sure.
That
should we,
rightfully so, they're not happy with.
to keep it in keeping with the timeline, should we publicize basically that, you know, we'll be taking things under consideration?
Oh, yeah.
Basically up until this date, and then, like, you know, whatever's in front of us we can consider before we start to, if we're going to make any changes, just to give us enough time to properly draft. And
Yeah, and we'll hold public hearings and stuff like that
That's what I
too,
mean.
because for anybody who wants to do ordinance changes, we'll just, you know, if we have a full agenda, we might not work on the ordinance, but if we have a light agenda, then, you know, it might not be something where I can just say, next meeting, I'm definitely going to have a light agenda, we're going to have a public hearing for zoning ordinances. Because I don't close the agendas until the week before, so I might not know until, you know, 7 days before, and someone would just have to look at the website and see what the agenda looks like. Unfortunately, that's kind of how I'm going to have to play it. When I talk to Chris and be like, hey Chris, you know, here's the agenda, how do you want to go with it? Because essentially he makes the approval. I tell him what has come across the desk, if there's any applications in there, If there's nothing on the meeting, you want to cancel it, that type of thing. So it's kind of hard to do it on a meeting by meeting because, we can tentatively say we're going to have one. That'd be nice, but.
I mean, even in soft copy form, like,
Yeah.
these types of things, and then, like, hey, if you have anything or want to consider it, you have until whenever, pick a date in August or something like that, and then whenever it becomes feasible for us to debate, you can decide basically, like, all right, like suggestion box is closed,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, kind of thing, and.
Yeah, I always recommend people are more than welcome to email my office.
Yeah.
And when you email my office, please provide copies to the planning board.
Right.
When they do that, I give you guys copies.
Right.
So I'm sure we'll see some of them as we move forward.
So not everyone writes an email to you, but people do make a lot of phone calls and they come in,
Mhm.
and that's pretty much what's driving all of this.
Mhm.
And you're the first contact with the public. So given that, what do you think? I mean, I'm looking to you. You're asking us for changes,
Right.
but I'm looking to you to tell us, what are you dealing with?
Well, I
This
think
is working, this is not working.
so. Right now, my biggest concerns is still the mineral extractions. I mean, I know they have a good operation. It's just when you have something that goes sour and the residents, and they rightfully do, their concerns are valid, very valid, and it's just hard because I have an existing conditions, and like she said, it's from 1989, and when we changed our ordinance, we were told from legal that you cannot go back and change any of the conditions, because honestly, I would have liked to put everybody with the same conditions and have a level playing field so that everybody had to adhere to the conditions, so they knocked the conditions of 1989. So when she said that, I wish I could do that for her. I just can't. I legally can't.
We tried to.
Yeah, we tried to, and that didn't work out. And so, putting things in the good neighbor policy that might not be part of their so like when I said the dust pollution or something like that, if we put something like that in the good neighbor policy, then they still have to conform to that, even though it's not in their conditions. Obviously, I don't know how many microns you got to go with, but there's got to be some kind of study out there that we can look into other ordinances that talk about dust pollution, and some kind of happy medium between that operation and the residents. Because I got people saying that they can't even open up their windows because what's the point? It just
Like
turns the
windows.
whole house dusty.
Why can't we just add into the mineral extractions for piece that doesn't?
Because it wouldn't.
Right, that's specifically on our new operations, but if we had something in the ordinance just for, we had noise, which noise is exempt to mineral extraction, which is kind of funny, but, just having stuff in there that just helps out in a general blanket instead of just targeting it, and saying, well, if someone says, well, that amendment was put in there, it doesn't work for us because it's not in our conditions. Well, I'd like to know if I put something in the good neighbor policy, if that still works, he still has to adhere to that, even though it's not in his conditions. Well, it's still in our good neighbor policy for operating anything.
That's a question for the lawyer.
Right.
I think
But
we're gonna run into the same thing.
We'd like to talk, also, we need
It's
to
worth a chance.
we need to talk to like Maine DEP too. So since 1989, I'm sure there's been, there has, right? There has
there's
to have
always
been,
changes, yeah.
changes to their, to what they consider in terms of like legal standing and those types of things, and adjustments that, standards that companies have to meet and those types of things.
But you said they came down and tested, right?
I didn't meet them out there, I was told they did, that's all.
Yeah.
And I give that person the benefit of the doubt. So we did that, with Maine, so with our new ordinance, we took, so their per acre of reclamation was, the state was like 4,000 or 4,500. It's always on the low side, so we went 6,000. So we went and saw what some of these neighboring towns were doing for per acre. And, I had North Berwick was like 13,000, but that's just that was on the skyrocketing high side of it. Most towns are anywhere between 6 and 8. Some were 5. Some were still at their old rates because they hadn't changed it. So it really was like, if this operation decided to shut its door, I mean, is this going to be able to? Are we going to be able to reclaim this for this amount of money?
Yeah.
You know, but right now the old pits are $1,000 to $2,000 per acre. You can't even get a triaxial loom for that, right?
Right.
And that's usually 5 acres or more that you're trying to reclaim. So you're not even touching it. So, but I mean, I think the board did a really good job with the mineral extractions last year, or was it last year or the year before?
It's kind of on.
Well, the year before. It was the year before. It was a lot better than what was in there. So, but if there's some fine tuning that can be made, I don't know. I mean, she just came with some good, compelling.
But the changes over the last few years have come, like mineral extraction has come from the public.
Yeah.
And so we worked on it. And then, you know, tiny homes, that was a news thing a lot. And
Yeah.
so we worked on that. Rentals, you know, was a big issue. But I don't remember very much coming actually from the public.
Yeah.
You know, just us from new laws or...
Well, so the mineral extraction was, I think I pushed that one because, well, the residents did too, but when I came on, it was the same time that a lot of these dormant pits, I guess, came up and operating again, or new owners came and bought in a company that really wasn't extracting a lot of product. And then these newer, hungry companies come in, and then all of a sudden there's an influx of truck traffic. So, I mean, as soon as they found out that there was a new CEO on board, my phone wasn't stopped. And so that's when it was like, well, maybe we got to look into that. And that was a huge concern for the general public.
Yeah.
Because it went from, like she was saying, even if the pits don't, like dormant pits or someone that's not operating to a full scale, then you have these operations that are just going full bore, you know, and doing their 35 trucks a day or more.
To have legal standing, please, I'm not a lawyer, but we'd have to demonstrate some type of harm.
Yeah.
And everything, and so it would have. It would all be retroactive. So it basically can't be proactive. So like one of these residents, if one of these residents or several of them are experiencing negative, harmful effects right now, that's when we want to get like Maine DEP or someone equivalent to come do the testing themselves, all right, and then based on some scientific study that they have in their back pocket can say this is doing measurable harm, right? Based on this, the town is able to enact new, and that should give, and that at least that would be something to explore with respect to giving us more legal standing to enact something a little more strict than the 1989 standards.
Right.
So I mean, I would say that would probably be the first step, you know, versus writing something that we want that is not going to hold muster.
Right. Writing something and then you find out that you can't even do that anymore.
Exactly.
Which is what we did.
Which is what,
Yeah.
you know, we're taught.
Right.
So I don't know who to call.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind. I have no problem calling anybody. Like, I can look up phone numbers, no problem. But I don't know what the process would be about, you know, engaging with them to help us.
If we figure out where we want to go with it, then I can make calls, or somebody in my office can make a call and get involved with either. We have multiple sources for town attorneys, and some that deal with this more than others.
Like based on, like, I would basically, I mean, these residents dropped this in our lap. I would basically, okay, let's find out how you're being harmed.
Yeah.
Let's find out, you know, and then once we find out.
Yeah, it's just the harm is an operation that wasn't working, and now it's in their backyard. So now they're dealing with noise, dust. They did some blasting. So he went around, because state minimum is for blasting, which it's not in our ordinance, but he went and did the state minimum. Went around it's a 500-foot circle
Yep.
to a butters. He did structural, he asked them what they wanted. So they have to give you permission to go in and do it. Then he offered to do the water testing for people. Problem is, he did it in February, when a lot of these people aren't around. So she made the comment of only allowing people to do this when residents have the ability to, because some of these, where they are, some of these camp roads don't get plowed. Everything's shut off, it's been shut off for the season.
Right.
You know, they drain all their water and all that stuff. So what the comment she made about certain times of the year, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because that way you get a water sample. You know, because right now, there's some of these places that didn't have a sample, so there's nothing to judge it by.
Yep.
This individual didn't blast deep. He was just doing surface blasting, but it doesn't really matter.
Right.
And in fact, it can happen no matter what. You can open up a vein. So.
Yep. Whatever measurable data we can achieve, and I think having an objective third party do it and report on it, I think would be most beneficial and would be most accepted by the residents as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know how comfortable they feel about the person who's responsible.
Well, on their conditional use permit, they're supposed to be able to pay for anything that...
That's an application. That's
just an application?
well, it's not. Well, further on, if you put it in the conditions for future use, but I can't do that for an existing use. That doesn't happen unless they have. Right now, a lot of these ones just have test pits. You know, some of them do say that they have to be, but that specific test pit has to be engineered, but not people's houses. You know.
So I'm still learning the process, obviously, a lot of processes here. When a pit goes dormant, it's not owned by the town, it's still owned by a company somewhere who then sells it to a different company who then decides to reopen it.
Conditions run with the land, not the individual.
Okay.
Right now, an old change to the ordinance for this specific reason was anytime conditional use or site plan review, any of those properties that have that use on them, or any use, they are required to come to the code enforcement office, and we did it just with my office, and review the conditions. No conditions have changed unless they're changing their scope of project. So if you decide you want to add something to it, then you come in front of the planning board. If you want to change something, you can go in front of the planning board, but they just have to review. Because what happened was we had a couple of people who brought things back to life and they didn't know their conditions. That's one of the reasons why those individuals were here talking tonight.
Yeah. So if a new
change we made this year, or last year.
So if a new pit
It was this year. No,
were to be opened, are there new standards that they have to adhere to?
Yeah, the ones we did.
No, yeah, a lot. A lot.
Yeah,
Yes, totally different.
So if they
Completely
don't,
different, yeah.
Okay.
if they don't have standards, they don't know what the standards are, they can't prove what the standards were, do they follow the new standards?
Well, they still have to follow state standards. But their conditions, no, so they have to they'll also
They
follow.
operate in this town.
Right, but their conditions are approved from that planning board time frame. So, and we have nothing saying that we can alter their conditions. Unless they come in,
If
unless
they
they.
don't have documentation, and they don't know what their
We have the
conditions are.
Yeah, we found a lot of their stuff was just all in shuffle. It was,
You found it?
The organization was horrendous.
Our state
It took us a long
considerations, so I don't expect anybody to know this off the top of their head, but I would wonder, like, are state standards and considerations more restrictive now than our town 1989 standards? Because if that's the case,
I don't have an answer.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'd be wondering, because if the state standards are more conservative and more restrictive now, right, than our town 1989 standards, I would think that the state standards supersede your towns, and that.
Yeah, because Maine is, my understanding, Maine is a home rule state.
Yes.
You
Yep.
cannot
You're
be
right.
less restrictive than what the state standards are, though. I'm not exactly sure what the verbiage is, but
You should
it's
not.
one of those
You
things.
should not be. You can be more restrictive.
More restrictive,
You
but
can't
not-
be less restrictive.
Right, so-
that's what I mean. If the state standards are more restrictive than ours,
Yeah.
I would think that the state standards would trump
Yeah.
ours and kind of give us like the legal authority to say we have to adopt the state standards as a minimum.
Yeah.
You know. I think that'd be something to look at.
Yeah.
To kind of address these old pits that seem to be
So
causing a lot of
I
hardship.
think it's only over 5 acres, then they have to file a notice of intent to comply with the state. Anything under 5 acres is in town's regulations. And I'm pretty sure that's how, I'm not 100%, but I really think that's how it works. So if you're 5 acres or more, or it might even be, yeah, it's 5 acres or more, I think, or 10 acres if understood. I don't know, I'd have to look into it. Then you follow state standards, but until you reach that certain open acreage, you're governed by local ordinances.
Okay, until you reach 5 acres, you're governed by local
I
ordinances.
think so. I think I have to look into it more. And then they still have the ability to come down. MSHA is like their OSHA. They have the ability to make sure that you're operating within certain standards. They'll check your equipment and things like that. But I'd have to really look into it. I can't remember. But
Okay.
something to think about.
Anyway, I think those are the avenues to start researching and to continue, I guess, to address this ongoing saga.
Yeah, I mean, there's always gonna be a problem when it comes to mineral extraction, because it's always just that thorn in someone's side, because obviously it messes with their sanctuary, their peace of mind, and, you know,
It's invasive.
it's always next to, it's 90% of these operations are right next to the water, because that's where all the glacial till is, so it's where they wanna be. That's
Yep.
where all the good stuff is.
Yep.
You're not gonna find much out in the middle of no man's land,
Yep.
you know? All right, so next week's agenda, not next week, excuse me, the next meeting is July 4th, and we'll not have a meeting. And if you guys want to have one, I will not be here. So July 18th is our next scheduled meeting. We will be, I will be speaking with North Star. They should be present. I did provide you guys with a memo from North Star in your packet. They had reviewed the sketch plan application for a Martell Estates subdivision. There's some notes in there. I've also forwarded that over to Martell's engineering firm. So there are some notes in there, you know, about completeness and things like that, and what they should provide and all this other stuff. And I think in the packet I had given you, there's also some other information, or excuse me, it's in the Martell Estates one that I gave you. Did I give it to the last one? Yeah, you guys all came in and grabbed the
Jones
documents.
and Beach.
Yeah, Jones and Beach, that's for, that also has the DEP after the fact permit in it that you guys can review, and all that information.
And Ben's gonna come?
Yeah, I will be calling Ben and verifying. So the reason why we pushed it out from this meeting, because they were tentatively supposed to be here tonight, but Ben was on vacation for the last 2 weeks in June. So I asked the applicant if they'd rather just wait, and they're in no rush. They want to get it moving, but they'd rather them be present. So July 18th, be a good meeting to be with. I have not received any information on the two pre-application meetings we had. There was 2 different scenarios. I don't know, so I haven't received the application, so I don't know when they intend to come back. I have told them that I need to at least a 2-week notice to give to the board. I want the information for the board, so if you guys have time to review it. So, unless they give me something in the next couple weeks, then I'll have you guys come in and get it, but unless I'm not putting them on the agenda, they have to have it in before the, the 4th. I'd like to have it in before the 4th, so that way you guys have time to review it. Other than that, any other comments?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor? All opposed?